Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the India Law LLP podcast, where we decode complex legal developments and translate them into practical insights. I am Priyanshu Dubey, and in today's episode, we undertake a comprehensive legal analysis of the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020, one of the most significant reforms in India's labour law framework. This code marks a decisive shift in India's industrial jurisprudence. It is not merely a consideration exercise, but a unification of 13 central labor enactments, repealing long-standing statutes such as the Factories Act of 1948, the Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act 1970, and the Building and Other Construction Workers Act. The OSH Code is designed to achieve three primary objectives: to streamline regulatory compliance, enhance ease of doing business, and universalize the occupational safety standards across the sectors. For legal professionals, compliance professionals, and HR leaders, this reform necessitates a fundamental re-evaluation of existing policies, contracts, and internal processes. Over the course of this episode, we will examine the code's critical dimensions, its scope and definitions, reforms in contract labor regulation, provision relating to women employment and interstate immigrant workers, and the updated compliance and penalty framework, providing clarity not just on the letter of the law but on its practical implications. So to start with the applicability and definitions, the OSH Code fundamentally redefines the concept of an establishment. Previously, applicability across the labour laws was fragmented. Now, any place where industry, trade, business, manufacturing or occupation is carried out with 10 or more workers falls under this code. The definition of factory has also changed. Under the Factories Act 1948, the threshold was 10 workers with power and 20 without. This OSH Code has doubled these figures to 20 workers with power and 40 without, exempting many MSMEs from the rigorous factory compliance standards. It is also critical to distinguish between employee and a worker. A worker refers to an operational staff, whereas an employee includes administrative and managerial person. Certain duties such as issuing of appointment letters and providing safety measures apply to all employees, but not to workers. Section 2. Contract Labour Reforms. Chapter 11, Part 1 regulates contract labour, a historically contested area. This OSH Code raises the applicability threshold from 20 to 50 workers, covering both the contractor and the principal employer. A key substantive change in the statutory distinction between core and non-core activities. Contract labour is prohibited in core activities, those essential to the establishment and its purpose, such as manufacturing in an automobile plant, but permitted under exceptions like the non-perennial work or sudden increase in volume. The non-core activities such as sanitation workers, ward services, catering, and loading and unloading services are universally permitted under contract labour. Compliance teams must audit current vendor agreements to ensure alignment with these definitions. Section 3. Women employees and Section 43. The Section 43 of the OSH Code modernizes the employment framework for women, adopting a rights-based approach. Historically, protective provisions restricted women from working late-night shifts, typically between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. The OSH Code removes these blanket restrictions, granting women the right to work in an establishment across all types of work, including night shifts. However, this entitlement is subject to mandatory conditions, which are explicit consent. Employment in night shift must be voluntary. It cannot be imposed as a system. Adequate safety and security measures must be taken. Employer must provide a safe working environment, including provisions such as proper lighting, security personnel, and other state prescribed standards. Safe transportation. Employers must ensure secure transportation facilities, ideally providing pick-up and drop services for late-night shifts. This framework replaces restrictive provisions under the Factories Act, harmonizing protections across all sectors, including IT and manufacturing. This approach shifts from limiting women's work by actively facilitating their participation, balancing the rights with safety. Coming on to Section 4, the interstate migration workers. Part 2 of the Chapter 11 on the OSH Code substantially expands protections for interstate migrant workers, addressing the gaps that became evident during the pandemic. Under 1979 Act, a worker was considered an interstate migrant only if recruited through a contractor from one state to another. The OSH Code removes this limitation. Now, any person who moves from one state to another for employment is covered under the same. It is provided that monthly wages do not exceed 18,000. It makes no difference whether the worker is recruited directly by the employer or through a third party. This classification grants the worker several statutory entitlements: access to the PDS, which is the public distribution system, at the designated state, availability of a toll-free grievance helpline to address complaints and concerns, a distinct journey allowance, a lump sum provided by the employer for travel between the worker's home state and the place of employment. For employers, this necessitates a more rigorous Know Your Employee process. It is now mandatory to document the permanent domicile of every worker earning under the wage ceiling to ensure compliance with these provisions. Section 5. The duties, penalties and compounding. The OSH Code consolidates employer duties under Section 6, making the issuance of letters of appointment mandatory for all employees, regardless of the tenure on wages. These letters serve as foundation documents for any dispute resolution. The Code also requires annual health examinations for employees above a certain age, provided free of cost, making health surveillance a statutory obligation. For regulatory compliance, it introduces single electronic registration, replacing multiple licenses. Existing registrations remain valid but must be updated on the central portal. The Code establishes a Social Security Fund, allowing minor offences to be compounded through the composition fees credited to the fund, avoiding criminal prosecution. However, serious safety violations resulting in death or injury carry up to 2 years imprisonment or fines up to Rs 5 lakh, with court empowered to direct part of the fine as compensation to the victim or their heirs. This emphasizes the occupational safety is non-delegatable duty, making proactive compliance essential for all employers. In conclusion, the OSH Code 2020 is more than a reduction in the number of labor laws. It represents a shift in compliance philosophy. The system transitions from an Inspector Raj to an Inspector-cum-Facilitator model, emphasizing the facilitation over punitive oversight. For professionals, the action plan is clear. Review the core activity classifications, audit contract labor arrangements, and ensure employment documentation, including appointment letters and health protocols, should be fully compliant. The code is now in force, with state rules being notified that transition period will only be brief. Proactive compliance is the only effective strategy here. Thank you for tuning in. We hope this detailed breakdown provides clarity and practical insights to help you navigate through the new regulatory landscape under the OSH Code 2020. Stay informed, stay compliant, and join us again for more episodes where we decode the law and its real-world implication. To know more, reach out to us at contact@indialaw.in. Thank you.